All right. Hey, guys. We are live on Phoenix RIA once again, and also on my Just for Flips YouTube channel, and also on my personal Facebook page as well. Pretty excited about this topic. The last time we were on here was 2 weeks ago, and Luke and I talked about the laws changing in South Carolina. Little did I know, while the laws were changing, Corey was sitting there spinning his wheels the whole time. And he has come up with a product for not just South Carolina, but future states that might try to outlaw wholesaling, and just for, I think, really kind of new people getting in the business, that because a lot of people, Corey's been a coach, I've been a coach. A lot of people, go take the class and they might lock up a deal, and then they just really don't have anything to do with the deal. Like, they just don't know what the next steps are. So I think this solves all those solutions, kind of all in one spot. So Corey, you actually text me about this. You're like, hey, have you seen the new laws? We were texting back and forth, and then you decided to go and find a solution. And what kind of spurred that on?
So thanks for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it. So back in 2008-9, everyone probably, well, many of us remember the big recession that hit. Lehman Brothers tanked, and really that was the birth of short sales. Right. That was a big area that I focused on heavily. We created a short sale software. We had a foreclosure mitigation and consulting firm. We hired senior loss mitigators. We had 60 people on staff that were salary programmers, etc. And we were doing a lot of short sales. At one point, I think we had 50 in the pipeline every single month for a little bit during that heyday. And what I remember seeing when the short sale situation happened was this thing called one-day funds. And you remember this.
Yeah.
It's called one-day funds. And later on, that morphed into transactional funding. And if you're not familiar with that, one-day funds or transactional funding is basically where you have to bring the money to the closing in order to close on that particular deal. And so short sales were stacking up, and I saw tons of these foreclosures happening. And I just remember thinking that this one-day funds thing is going to blow up. It's going to get bigger because there was more opportunity for people that just wanted to throw their house at you. I mean, they didn't have any equity in it. They were just throwing the keys at the bank. They're getting these property foreclosure left and right. And these lending companies aren't property management companies. They wanted to get rid of these properties, and thus short sales and loan modifications weren't working out. And so short sales really blew up. So that concept of wet funds, being able to basically bring the money to the table and then get the money right back the same day, that's what one-day funds was. If you didn't have the money, for example, $300,000 deal that you had a deal with, say, a short sale, but you did not have $300,000 to be able to bring to closing, but you got somebody on the other end that's going to pay you $350 for that deal.
Right.
You can't close on it if you're in a wet state or wet funding state. And so that's where short sale, or that's where transactional funding or one-day funds would just wire in the $300,000. And at that time, it was like 3 points that you would pay on money for like an hour, and then you'd wire it back. And you didn't want to pay the money necessary, but you couldn't do the deal without it. And so, you had enough meat on the bone for it to make sense. So that concept, right, got really big. And I liken that fast forward till today. We just saw some major laws pass in South Carolina. I'm in Oklahoma. I'm born native Oklahoma. I've been in Oklahoma City about half my life. I'm 48 years old as of today. And
it's your birthday? Hold on. Whoa. As of today?
I'm sorry. Well, as of this year. So it was June 9th. Sorry. So, but close enough. So at the end of the day, there's these regulations and laws are coming down the pipe because wholesalers in general are not looked upon as really legitimate investors, and many investors would even argue with you if they're even are. They're kind of looking at look like the pawn shop of real estate. And so the real estate agents and NAR specifically, right, the National Association of Real Estate, they do not like wholesalers because their perception of them is they take advantage of people, and they don't do what they say they're going to. It's almost like a bad car salesman, like Joe the car salesman that's snarky and you're going to do you bad, and you're taking advantage of people, and they're flashing their gold chains around and their Lambos around. Look at the money.
The Lambos, right?
Right. And at the end of the day, that perception is really bad for wholesaling. We've ran a wholesaling operation. I know you've run a wholesaling operation legitimately. When I say legitimately, we have testimonials from people that are crying that they loved our service. People that we actually created liquidation to the market. That's why I really think of wholesaling. It's like a liquidation to the marketplace. People need wholesalers because they need to be able to get rid of their assets quickly. They have their own reasons for that. And of course, you're not buying them at a retail price, and they don't expect you to. So what's happening right now in South Carolina with these wholesale laws is, in Oklahoma and other places that are coming, Oregon right now, there's Washington. I mean, it's just coming down the pipe right now. Basically, they're wanting you to be a real estate agent, licensed agent, and they also want you to be a title owner on the property, meaning that you have to own that property in order to market it. So a lot of these wholesalers, they go assign the deal. They assign the contract, or they assign the property. Hey, that's not the same thing. I'm assigning my paper, not the property. Well, you may think that, right? But at the end of the day, it comes down to what a judge says. And at the end of the day right now, that's an interest. An assignment is an interest. And they are outlining things that are making it very, very difficult for traditional wholesaling. The way we basically get a deal under contract, right? Go find somebody else that's willing to pay us more for that. We're in the middle. We make the difference. So we assign it to them, or we do what's called a double close, right? We close on that transaction and then we turn around and sell it to someone else. The challenge with all of those is that you are marketing that property before you sell it to someone else. You're typically publicly marketing, right? Because you're trying to get the most amount of money.
But to clarify, before you actually own it, you're marketing it before you own it. Yeah.
Before you own it. That's right. And thus, where we come to today is takedown funding. And this is the idea that is kind of like the transactional funding was back in 2009-10. I see the takedown funding being a great opportunity and a solution for these wholesaling regulations, for wholesalers, especially people that are just getting into the market. Chris, they're not going to have an opportunity to be able to make the money like they used to, or just assigning it or double closing it. And because one, they don't own the property, and two, they're not a licensed agent. And so we saw both of those situations with takedown funding.
And as you know, a lot of people, sign up for the Gurus class, right? Or multiple classes. I teach classes too, so you could classify me as one of those. But, we all just say, hey, the easiest barrier to entry is wholesale, right? You can spend money for marketing, but you can also just spend your good old fashioned time for marketing and do some cold calling. And, we used to do texting, but not really. But you can do some cold calling and door knocking and get a contract. And that contract can make you $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. And now it really creates the barrier of entry for that person. Like, they can't just go do that. So I see this as like, and I see this as a solution, not even just for the states that might have the laws coming down the pipe. And so to that, do you think everybody's just going to copy paste South Carolina? Copy paste.
Yeah, it's called copy legislation, right? We recently had a big interview with a very big figure in the wholesaling world. And I want to preface this. I'm not saying there's anything bad. We run a wholesaling operation. We've done very well with it. It's been a blessing to people, and it's been a blessing to my team. I'm sure you've run a wholesaling operation and you've had a lot of great stories from it. There's nothing wrong with legitimate wholesaling, meaning that you have core values, you have ethics, and you treat people the way you want to be treated. You don't take advantage of people, and you can lean into capitalism. But what's happening right now is regulations, and these things are coming down the pipe right now. it is, it's just really heavy, and it's going to get harder for these people that just come into the market, Chris, that want to wholesale. Like you said, the barrier to entry is really low, and it has been, but now they're getting ready to raise that standard, and they're going to want you to be a licensed real estate agent, and they're also going to want you to be a title owner of that property before you can market it and resell it to someone else for a profit.
So let's jump into what you're providing. You're providing the funds to actually close on the deal. So I'm going to back up just a hair and go. You're the seller. I'm the buyer. I'm the bad wholesaler, right? Yeah. So I do some marketing, whether on my own time or on my own dollar, and I get the contract from you. So I'm the big bad wholesaler. You're Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and then I use my Sell Wholesale Houses database to send it out. I get it from you for 100. I sell it for 120, and I send my assignment to title. They bring in their 120. They give you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, 100, and they give me 20. I never owned the property. I didn't do anything. I just collected a $20,000 check, and I've done that thousands and thousands and thousands of times. So now the new law is saying, hey, Mr. Chris, the wholesaler, I can go still get the contract from Corey, but until I close for the $100,000, I can't market it to my $120,000 buyer. I can only market it once I close. So, in that fact, I could go get hard money, but if I'm a new guy and I don't even have the $15,000 down or the $20,000 down to go get the hard money. So, all right. So fast forward, you're actually providing 100% takedown financing.
That's correct. It's really one of the first of its kind. And we're really excited about this because being a wholesaler myself, running basically everything you can come running into about everything you possibly can, and not just in one state. We're over 35 states now that we've closed transactions. So I've seen a lot in these different states. And I know it's really, really hard, one, to get a motivated seller. And I'm not talking about somebody that's just saying, I want to sell my house. I'm talking about someone that says, I have to sell my house, right? And I don't have time to wait around, and I'm entertaining offers, and I've got a reason and motivation to move it, and I'm willing to take a discount, especially for cash or et cetera. So those type of folks right there, there's a lot of those folks out there, and you want to be able to provide a service to be able to, help those folks.
Yeah.
And
to give you an example, that I spent my first 17 years of foreclosure. Obviously, people get the notice of foreclosure, bury their head in their sand, and then they get to 2 weeks before the actual sale, and now they're ready to take the wholesale price and move it because they just don't have time. So I mean, obviously, I've done that scenario a bunch of mine.
Right.
So have you done more research? I know South Carolina is on the route. I've seen like Florida. I think Oklahoma's on the route too, right? I know Illinois has said, hey, you must be licensed. And South Carolina did that first. You must be licensed first before, and then they made them go get licensed, and then they changed the law.
Then they changed the law, right? And it's going to be copy legislation. They want you to be licensed. NAR does not want to have these quote commissions that are coming from these off-market transactions, to be given to anyone except real estate agents.
Yeah.
So that's understandable, especially if they just got a black eye from the big lawsuit over the buyer and the seller agent thing. And so at the end of the day, it's one of those things where they see, they don't want to lose quote more market share, which already wholesaling is only about 5% of all transactions that take place on buying and selling properties in the United States. 5% is from wholesalers. 95% of the people work with a real estate agent. They just go that traditional route. So, but with that 5%, apparently is also still a big number for them to be able to capitalize on that. And so they want you to be licensed, and then they also want you to take the deal down so you have title ownership before you market that. But here's the deal. if you're a wholesaler and you're listening to this right now, you're not Walmart. You don't have, probably 100,000 a month or 50,000 a month, or you might have 10 or 20, but you may not even have that, and you've got these great deals. You've negotiated a great deal. Someone's willing to sell. You found a great opportunity, but you don't have maybe the credit lines, or maybe you've tapped out on those credit lines, and you need to have a solution. And there hasn't been, as far as my understanding, 100% takedown funding opportunity for you to be able to come in and say, I got a great deal. I don't have all this big cash I need to take it down, but I know that this is a great deal, and I know I'm going to be able to turn this deal, right? I don't want you to lose that deal. And so we want to be able to create a solution for you to be able to get that deal. We can take it down. That's what the whole idea is closing. That's kind of the idea. Take it down, right? And then from there, you can still market it. You're still, you can still work with an agent that basically is representing our company, and you can still get that deal done and still get it sold and still make a great amount of profit.
Yeah. So, I mean, really kind of what they're trying to do is the bad actors. And I'm sure that, I've seen some rips come across my desk. I haven't seemed to found them, but I mean, and I've made my $20,000 and $30,000 on homes, but I've seen some rips come across the desk, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000. And I think that's what they're trying to limit, right? But if you have that opportunity, or even if it's a $30,000 opportunity, still a $30,000 opportunity. I'm used to, Phoenix is a very competitive market. I want to say my average wholesale fee is probably only $7,000, but it's just competitive out there. But you give all these people, like I said, I think what it does is it saves all the coaches, honestly, because how many coaches out there are pumping out new students to go find deals, but they don't really have a solution. A lot of times, I mean, I know this too, like how many times has the student spent kind of their last dollar on the class, right? So it's surprising to me, like, even because I've had some students and they took my virtual class and then they're like, all right, let's go market. And I'm like, and they're like, I don't have any money. I'm like,
money, right?
Like let's just talk about real estate. You don't have a business unless you have leads. And if you can't have a dollar to market,
you don't have leads.
You don't have leads. So
not consistently, right? Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm just thinking that you're saving a lot of coaches. They can still have a coaching business, and I think this is where you spend a lot of time, talking to coaches, because I think they're gonna just, hey, bring in my partner Corey.
Well, they need right now. The coaches need to have a solution.
Yeah.
And this is going to get big. I have big vision for this. I know, we've discussed this, Chris, like where this thing can go. We're in like South Carolina, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, like right in Oklahoma, those states right now. But it's going to expand, nationwide very, very soon. And it's the time now to really pay attention to what's coming down the pipe. It's not where the puck is. That's where we always focus, right? It's where the puck is going. Yeah. And that's where you have to stay ahead of the game. If you have a real estate business, that's true. And you may not like to give up some, quote, profit or some of the money from, working with someone, but we're your partners. We're your wholesaling partners. We're your gap funding partners, where we can come in and you can get that deal, and you can have up to 90 business days to be able to liquidate that deal, wholesale that deal. And you have extremely low risk, if very, very little. We require a home inspection. We require a couple of points, and there's a fee involved, but it's a flat fee for like $1,250. These things are very doable for you and your business, and you've got to focus on really, and we underwrite every single deal. Every single deal is individually underwritten. We know what the wholesaling game looks like. We know that game inside and out. And so if your deal is approved, you can go and just get another deal, right? And so you can focus on just getting these deals in the pipeline, and you may not get like $10,000 or $15,000 rip, on one deal, but you might be able to get that, over a couple of deals or even more. Maybe you do have a big rip on some of these deals and you got a really good deal. You negotiated a really good deal. Once you know that deal is taken care of and you've got that one done, you can just move on to the next one. So we want to be your long-term partners on this. This is not a flash in the pan. This is coming and it is going to stay. And you're going to need to have someone to be able to help you that is capitalized. Okay. If you're capitalized, you probably don't need us. But if you're not capitalized, this is going to be an opportunity for us to partner up together and do some big things together.
Yeah. So there's like we talked about the newbie. There's also, like you mentioned, how many times have you, I don't know if you've run a rehab business, but I've done.
I did it for 2 years and I regretted every bit of it, but I did it.
Yeah, but sometimes even as you're running a rehab business, right? It's like rehab business. Here comes the steel that you can't pass up. But you know what it's like. A rehab business is like just takes cash, all cash, down payment money, rehab money, all the cash, right? So if you have that deal, you have all your money tied up in your rehabs, and then you get another deal across your plate from the next door neighbor or just a referral from, this is, once again, that's an opportunity. Like, hey, I could just pass here, or this deal is probably a $30,000 wholesale deal. If I give Corey a little piece of it, then I get to keep the deal and make some money. So,
absolutely, and we want you to make money and do a lot of great deals. We just want you to be able to do it legally. And you're saying, well, my state isn't requiring that right now. Fantastic. It's not where the puck is. It's where it's going. It is coming down. It's going to be copy legislation. And, right now that is where you've got to be paying attention. And we are, and we feel like this is a great way to future pace, where things are going. And we want to be able to really create, the hub for wholesalers that have integrity, good real estate investors that aren't well capitalized, that need a little bit of assistance, and really first of its kind, 100% financing product that allows you to go in, get a great deal, negotiate, do what you're good at, right? Without having to worry about the capital to be able to take that deal down and still just being focused on selling that deal.
Yeah. And just another side point, there's the wholesale model, but then there's that hotel model that, a lot of people talk about, but, not a lot of people do, but it kind of fits that model, a hotel / almost novation, where you did get it signed up at a really good deal. And then but it's a pretty clean house, right? You just actually can take it to the MLS.
Right.
So not even just wholesale it, because now it's owned and you just take it to the MLS. So there's actually an opportunity to make, because a lot of wholesalers, I don't know all the different nuances of every state. So to do a novation, you can do the novation and then get the affidavit signed and take it to the MLS. In this particular case, Mr. and Mrs. Seller are gone. You can just close it and take it to the MLS, and it's vacant. You're not saying, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, can I have access to the property?
Right.
There's just a couple other, pieces. It does, but we did have a question. So he said, what happens if it fails? Do you simply foreclose or take over the property? So, but you're actually, go ahead.
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're taking the deal down in our company name, right? And for that point, we then give the wholesaler the option to purchase that property at what we call the A to B price. The A to B price is the price that they negotiated with the owner of record or the ex-owner of record at that point, right? And so that is effectively, we've done that for a couple of reasons. One, it helps the wholesaler so we don't have to charge as many fees if there's some kind of legal situation that happens, that we don't have to foreclose, take the property back. We already have the property in the company name. We already are established there with deed, and then we can give that option to purchase to the wholesaler. And that's one way to be able to cut down the fees. So it works better for the wholesaler, and it works better for us too.
Yeah. So I think you're giving an option agreement, right? So you give them the option to purchase from A to B. In South Carolina, they made the wholesalers all go get licensed, so they'll have a license or someone on their team that has a license, right? So then they just wholesale. They can still wholesale it to their database using the license, right? Or they can wholesale it to the MLS using the license.
That's correct. As long as someone's licensed on that transaction, you're fine. And so we work with either, your agent on your team, or if we can have another agent, we work with them. And so basically they're representing our company. You're just kind of helping us at that point, being able to liquidate it. And
so you and I were texting because I think I asked like, hey, what about those kind of $199 services as well? You had the name of the company. I didn't remember. What was the name of the company?
Yeah, we've used Brokerless as one. Fizbo, there's Houseo. There's several of them that charge anywhere from $149 to $399, $499 for flat fee listings. That's something that you have to pay up front to be able to get that on the MLS, and you also have to have some sort of permission, language to like attorney in fact, or an actual limited power of attorney. Those documents often will work with the owner's permission for you to be able to get the property on the MLS. The challenge is that at that point still is that there's an interest that's tied to the resale of that property that you're going to get compensated for. And so with the new laws that are coming down right now, any kind of novation, RBP, as far as what our understanding, talking to two South Carolina attorneys that handled thousands of transactions in the last year or two, they basically are saying, because South Carolina is an attorney state, they're saying you cannot do those. That is also, quote, considered a wholesaling act.
So the novation has gone out of South Carolina as well.
That's correct. Yeah. From what our understanding with the attorney, and we don't do what's called a traditional novation. My company, and I created and kind of coined a new process called Retail Buyer Program, or RBP. And basically it's similar in terms of we are able to wholesale to an FHA, a VA, a conventional, a USDA buyer. And you traditionally can't do that because the break in the chain of title, right? That has worked for a long time now. After we've talked to the attorney and two attorneys now in South Carolina and one in Oklahoma, that the challenge with that right now is that it's also tied to the resale of that property. Whenever you go in and you're also marketing that property, even though you're giving the permission from the owner to be able to market it, you're marketing that property, and you're also getting a commission to your company, right, tied to it at the sale of that. So the attorneys that are doing those types of closings, many of those attorneys have just said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to risk my license in order to do it. You may have an attorney you've worked with and you've closed a lot of deals with them, and they feel comfortable on still closing either a novation, an RBP, maybe even a traditional wholesale. My recommendation to you is get an attorney, what's called a legal opinion letter. If you're going to continue to do wholesaling in assignments or novations or even RBP in these states, South Carolina, Oklahoma, these ones specifically right now, they're putting a lot of the heat on. Washington's a big one. Oregon's another one that has legal ramifications to jail time, prison time. If you're going to continue to do these, get a legal opinion. Get a legal opinion from that attorney. So that way you make sure you're, quote, covered if something hits the fan.
Yeah. So I don't watch Bigger Pockets podcast all that often, but I just happened to see one. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 days ago, and it was talking about the South Carolina thing. So I was on my walk, put my headphones in. I wanted to listen in, and they said somebody was on a Zoom call like this. We got 10 people watching right now or whatever, and like a Zoom call like this, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, I got a wholesale deal that I want to sell," and the lady got fined $30,000.
Wow.
30 grand, just, for just like being on like a friendly Zoom call like this with, like her investor group.
Yeah, that's public marketing.
Yeah.
In the world of commercial real estate, I know you and I do some of that too with I own apartments and self storage and whatnot. There's a term for a type of offering, right? That is either for accredited investors or unaccredited investors. And if it's all accredited investors, I think it's a 503C or 506C, versus like a 506 or 503B, one of those. You can bring accredited investors in only, meaning if you do that, they basically said, hey, I'm a big boy, a big girl. I know my risk, and I'm used to investing, and I'm an accredited investor. And they make X amount of dollars a year, or they're worth X amount net worth. I think it's like $1 million net worth, or 250 or 300,000 combined a year between the two. So I liken that, right, to people that are sophisticated. They understand investing, right? They understand the risk involved, in that. But there's a lot of people that just don't, right? And those are called unaccredited investors. And you can't just go out there and blanketly say, hey, here's a deal, here's an apartment deal, I'm raising money for it. Are you interested? Throwing $100,000 for this, really what's called a security. So thinking about that, right? Likening that to the fact that you just said someone got fined $30,000 on a little Zoom call because they were saying something, publicly marketing that property whenever they don't own it, and they've been able to, trying to sell it for a profit.
Yeah. So anyway, so they can, it's takedownfunding.com, right?
Takedownfunding.com. It says apply for funds right up the front. We're pretty quick on getting back with you, usually within 24 hours, or if it's over a weekend, usually the next Monday, following Monday. But we're pretty quick on getting back in touch with you. It has how we work. It shows the fee structure there. It's pretty simple. It has an example of a deal there. And, we're excited about working with investors and wholesalers that have integrity and that need a solution, that aren't necessarily as capitalized as they'd like to be. And maybe they're in some of these states right now: South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Oklahoma, Tennessee. We're focusing there, and then soon we'll be opening up nationwide.
Arizona, we'll look at Arizona deals too. I'll look at some Arizona deals.
Look at some Arizona deals. There you go. That's right. Look at some Arizona deals. So
anyway, thanks for jumping on, Corey. If they want to follow you, they catch you up on Facebook. What's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, just go to takedownfunding.com.
Okay.
They can go there. They'll see there's a contact us section down there on the bottom. And I want to say thank you, Chris, too, for really being a part of this too. I know you've seen the vision of where this is going. I know you've had a lot of experience on closing transactions. I think it's over 10,000 now. I mean, that's like 5 times as many as I've done. And over 500 million in transactions and back and forth. And, so I think for you seeing the vision of where this is going and working together on this, this company, it really means a lot to me. And it also shows me that we're going in the right direction. So appreciate that too, man.
Yeah, no worries. Well, guys, thanks for jumping on. Luke, once again, apologize. He's moving. He's 2 weeks from the next baby. He's got a lot of stuff going on. So we will probably not be here next week because it is 4th of July. We are doing a simulated golf tournament for the Phoenix RIA next. It's the third Tuesday. I don't know what that is. I think it's like the 17th of the month. I don't remember. Hold on, I'm jumping on the calendar. It is the 16th, but we rented out those simulated golf areas. We're going to have 30 to 40 people. We're going to golf. And we're going to run a golf tournament. So we're basically the first 32 people get to play a par 3. You get past the first round. The next 16 people play the next par 3. You get down to the final 8, and those final 8 pay a little 3-hole par 3, and the winner gets prize. I haven't figured out what that prize is, but if you're around, come to July's Phoenix RIA. There is no education. It is just networking and fun. So,
and probably a beer or two.
A couple couple beers.
Probably a couple of beers or two. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I also want to mention this too. We are rolling out an affiliate program for people that want to just refer us, investors, people that do need this. Maybe you don't need it, but you know a couple of people that would be perfect for this. We want to talk to you too. We are excited about rolling out a way for you to get compensated, and not just once, but multiple times, as many of those times those investors do deals. And this is a great way, one, to help you. It's also a great way to help us, because we have a big vision of where this company is going. And you're going to hear a lot about takedown funding in the next few months.
Cool. Well, thanks for jumping on, Corey. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you.
See you guys in a couple weeks.
Later.